Let's talk about this $3.5 trillion spending monstrosity, and it is every bit of that. There are 40-plus radical programs being funded by this $3.5 trillion spending bill being pushed forth by Joe Biden and the Democrats that they don't want you to know about. Joining us to tell us about those things, Pete Sepp, President, National Taxpayers Union. Pete, good morning.
Good morning.
So there are some things in this bill that they didn't advertise when they were trying to convince everybody that this is great for the country, including things like, free college for illegal immigrants in this country, something that American citizens can't get, but they want to fund it for illegal immigrants. Why and how? And what else do you see in here, Pete?
Oh, boy, the list is long, and we have so little time. So let's try to just highlight a few of them. There's a civilian conservation corps, which effectively is not going to be like the CCC of the old New Deal, where people were simply put to work doing things like building roads or conserving forests. No, they will be engaging in direct climate activism. Now, however you feel about climate change, wouldn't it be better if that kind of activity was funded out of the pockets of donors rather than taxpayers? You've got Green New Deal education, environmental justice, $10 billion of it going into our universities, as if our universities aren't already awash in cash. Same things going on in public schools. There's funding for green education programs. There's, of course, free daycare. Well, that sounds great until you realize that the universal pre-K program that they're pushing requires everybody participating in it and caring for the kids to have a college degree. Well, that's going to drive up the cost to taxpayers, of course, and put a lot of honest, good, hardworking people who are already taking care of kids out of work.
Basically what you're saying is we're creating a whole new government. We've got the EPA that's going to have their own Department of Justice, their own military, and their own Department of Education, and the people who are on the receiving end of all this taxpayer printed money are going to be the academicians and those who run these programs, and they depend upon this money from the government for their own livelihoods.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other thing we need to remember here is that this is creating the structure for a European-style social welfare system. By that, I mean not just Social Security and Medicare, the safety net that we've long become accustomed to, but huge middle-class entitlements from cradle to grave. And we need to remember those kinds of systems cannot be funded solely by taxes on the wealthy. The OECD, the Organization of Economic and Community Development, that's about 24 industrialized nations, keep statistics on this. No other country except Italy gets as much of its taxes from the top 10% of taxpayers than we do. We already have a highly progressive system where the wealthier among us pay most of the freight for government. That cannot continue under an expansion of government this big. We are going to bring value-added taxes here. We are going to bring 30, 40% income tax rates to the working class and the middle class, not the upper class, in order to fund a system like this. Democrats aren't going to tell you this right now because they think it can all be, quote, free, unquote, but that's what's going to happen.
They live in another reality, and in the meantime, as they print all these dollars to make this happen, your dollars are going to be worth less and less and less, and we've seen that throughout history.
Yeah, and they're still doubling down on their new math. Yeah, they're still doubling down on their new math that $3.5 trillion actually equals zero. Jen Psaki said it again yesterday. It's impossible, but they're still pulling that. Pete Sepp, President, National Taxpayers Union. Pete, thanks so much for the information. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.